Trojan family, Trojan gang. What it do, y'all? What it do, man? Now everybody talking about this new NIL clearinghouse ruling and whatnot. What's about to happen with this house settlement agreement and how it gonna affect the NIL aspect of recruiting and what factor that gonna play in. And let me tell y'all, you know what? Nah, I ain't even gonna spoil it for y'all. I'm gonna run through this with y'all like I said I was gonna run through. I'm gonna give y'all the 12-point criteria that they say that they gonna use to implement this system to determine whether NIL deals are legitimate or not. Now, the group tasked with that assignment is a group called Deloitte, based out of UK. I think they business is based off things like this, you know what I'm saying, marketing deals and things of that nature, business marketing, right? And the head of it that they gonna have running this operation is a guy named Billy something, I forget his name. Go look it up. He used to be with the MLB. I don't like that fact because we know the MLB, they don't run they shit right. But that's who gonna be looking at this situation and determining whether NIL is legit or not. Now we gonna get into that right there because that's the big $1 million question, right? How are they gonna determine this? And this player's gonna go for, like, what are the potential pros and cons to this, right? So before I really get on the hot topic deep in the surface of how people gonna feel and what this means by this entity determining whether your NIL deal you worth that or not, we gonna broach that topic in a minute. But before we broach that topic, we got to talk about the 12-point criteria here that they using to determine NIL value and how it affects yours truly, USC, and the other universities around the country, right? So, 1, social media influence. How many followers you got and how much engagement you get can increase your NIL value, right? For instance, a kid like Mikey Williams, he got 3 million followers on IG. He was basically a millionaire at 16 years old because of his social media influence. So for all the kids in the 27 class and beyond, y'all should look to growing y'all social media to increase potential earnings in the NIL market, because they gonna factor that in whether you worth the dollars that somebody might offer you, right? Next is your athletic performance. Now, that's kind of vague. I don't know if this based off high school performance or your college performance or maybe both. But I would think it would cause problems if the clearinghouse, right, want to take away a player's money because he's not putting up the numbers that they see fit, right? Where they gonna have performance evaluators, you know what I'm saying? That's where it might get tricky as well, right? And that's might be potential issues ahead in court moving forward, right? Things can get messy with that if you try to take a player money away because you feel like his performance ain't matching that. What if he a defensive tackle and he only got 15 tackles, but he commanded double team, right? If you just look at that stats and you a casual, you won't know his impact, right? Next is the deal specifics, such as, right, what they got you doing as far as promoting their business. All right, so if you get an endorsement deal, you expected to endorse for that company, promote their business, put your name behind their business, right, promote their service. So they're gonna want to know, how are you doing that? So for instance, it might be appearances for the company, like how many times you might show up at events to sign autographs, meet and greet, take pictures. A player might get 10K every time he show up for these events, and the clearinghouse gonna want to see the blueprint and fine print for such activities, right? Next, they gonna look at content creation, right? How much content creation you doing or set to be doing for this said company, right? So they gonna want to see whatever company you got to deal with, you actually making content for them. They want to be able to see how you market and promote, because marketing and promoting is about making your business and your services public, and you advertising it to the world So they're gonna want to see that, right? So things like making movies, commercials, shorts, any kind of vids, etc. for the NIL brand, right? And that's cool. I respect that. That's for sure, right? 5, the next one is deal duration, right? That's gonna play a factor in how much they feel you worth too. How long is the deal? 3 years, 4 years, 5 years, 1 year? They're gonna look at that as well. Also, they're gonna look at exclusivity clauses, right? So in the contract, that means that one party has a sole right to do something, like sell a product, provide a service, use intellectual property within a specific geographic area or in relation to a particular product or service, while another party is prohibited from doing the same. Essentially, it creates a unique, exclusive relationship between the two parties, often to the exclusion of others, right? Exclusivity, right? You're gonna want to see that. Next, the donors and boosters, right? They're gonna be under heavy scrutiny. The NCAA's definition of boosters have been expanded to include collective, right? Making them subject to the same restrictions as individuals. This means that boosters and collectives cannot engage in recruiting activities or provide benefits to prospective students, athletes beyond NIL agreements. So basically, they don't want boosters giving free donations on top and exceeding NIL deals, right? Next, they're going to look at the market. Now, I done got conflicting information, right? But with NIL deals, they got to consider your market, because the bigger your market, the more your deal could be potentially worth, right? I found new information I'm going to share with y'all is that the fair market value ain't actually in the paperwork. It's range of compensation. Now, we going to talk about how range of compensation is what going to have this a mess and going to have this all in court. How this shit ain't going to work, y'all, right? But the market, your comparable market benchmark is a standard of reference point used to evaluate the performance value of an asset, company, or investment, typically by comparing it to similar entities in the same industry or market. So the worth of the company and location of the company will be factored in. Also factored in is the demand and size of the geographic market. You know what I'm saying? So we know that give USC an extreme advantage with a population of 9.7 million people in Los Angeles County alone, right? Los Angeles got over 1.3 million small businesses as well, right? And you know they got every major business as well too. Timing. The timing of the deal, especially in relation to recruiting or transfers, will be considered. Documentation, right? The quality and completeness of the deal documentation will be assessed. They want to see all the paperwork, and they want the paperwork to answer all the questions they may have. And they'll look for red flags suggesting illegitimacy of any deal or inducement, right? Now, let me tell y'all why this is a bunch of BS. And this is going to end up right back in court. It's going to end up right back in court. Now, I was going to tell y'all myself, but right before I was making this video, I seen Pat Mcafee talk about it with Pete Thamel. And I'm going to let Pat Mcafee tell y'all, because he was a former athlete and he didn't engaged in deals like this before. And Pat Mcafee was going to say exactly what I was going to say. And I was going to say it long-winded. You feel me? But I'm going to let y'all hear what Pat Mcafee got to say, and I agree with him. This is where it gonna be a problem at, and we gonna end up back at the same place. Whoever running this gonna be in court every week. He gonna have a headache. He gonna be tired of going to court. He gonna be tired. Check out this Pat Mcafee clip, and remember, he gonna say the same thing I was about to tell y'all. I'm just gonna let Pat Mcafee tell y'all.
Sheriff Seeley's watch here of this sports commission. I guess it was all supposed to be market value, and there's like comps and everything, and they approve whether or not it's an overpay or an underpay. How is that possible in marketing deals? Because you are worth exactly what somebody's willing to pay you in marketing deals. Like, are they foreseeing a massive lawsuit coming down the pipe in that type of world? Or will Brian Seeley be given the power or the unilateral power to be like, no, this is what this type of deal is worth? Because it feels like that could potentially, that's where it could still get ugly, right? That's probably the only thing holding it all up.
Oh yes, there will be lawsuits, Pat. That is for certain here. I think the key term, if we want to go inside.
Exactly. So that's why the NCAA, this firm is going to be in court every week, because in the endorsement world, you are worth whatever the investor decides to give you, right? You're not worth with this market, with this firm, with this sports group, whatever they calling it, right? You're not worth what they say you worth. You're worth what the investor say you're worth, right? Right? So that's how it's gonna be in court. A kid gonna get offered a deal. It's thousands and thousands of athletes. One of these kids gonna get offered a deal, and this group gonna say, oh, you ain't worth that. Going against the fundamentals of business practice, going against the logic of the world outside of sports. You are worth what somebody is willing to pay you for your services. If you're a barber and you charging $10,000 a haircut, if somebody want to pay you that's legally fine. That's legally fine. You could put a price on whatever services you offering. If I want you to promote my business and I want to give you $1 or $1 million, it's a lawful right, and it's lawful for you to accept it, and it's lawful for me to offer it. Right? Let's get into more what Pat McAfee is saying. We're gonna go down and why there's a mess. I'm gonna play y'all one more clip. If I ain't getting to you, let Pat try.
So we happen to be athletes that do sponsorship deals. So why would we potentially be able to forecast what's coming down the pipe? I think because I've done all these things. I think because I've had to do all these. And I'm going to let you know that if I was a player and some company was going to give me $1.5 million, and then Seeley's crew says, $250,000 is what's right. That's a $1.25 million, hey, I'm getting screwed here. And that's just the way the world works. Like, that's loud. That's a lawsuit. That's some sort of, I don't know. And it's like, we thought the revenue sharing was going to be the right play because now they have a salary cap and the schools are paying. So we know it's actual real contracts. Mm-hmm. We know that they're not going to get bamboozled. We know they're not going to lie to. But the fact that all the other stuff isn't like banned, and not saying it should be banned because guys should be able to collect their money however they collect. But the fact that that's still available, it's like, well, you still have the NIL problem. You still have the pay-for-play problem, but now it just has to be worded in ways that Brian Seeley and the team say, yeah, it's okay. So it's just more paperwork almost as opposed to just the wild, wild west. Hopefully it's good for players. Hopefully it's good for teams. But it feels like there's a chance that we're still in the middle of chaos. As long as the product on the field matters and is good, that's all that matters. Now,
so Trojan fans, this is why I wasn't going to make the video. This is why I waited to make a video. Because I quickly find out that this ain't gonna change nothing. All this means is players is gonna end up in court a lot. Like, that is not gonna hold up. I don't know why the NCAA, I know they say this Deloitte, but they put together this structure, right? I don't know why they set themselves up to fail. I don't know why. Because ain't nothing changed, y'all. Because all the player gotta do is say they trying to cap my NIL earnings, and they can't cap your earnings, right? You are worth what your endorser wants to give you. This firm is not going to be able to circumvent the law and say this player is not worth this much when in regular business practice, everybody knows you're worth what the endorser wants to endorse in you. When LeBron James was in 11th grade in high school, Nike gave him a $90 million contract, right? So let's say the next great phenom high school basketball player don't want to come straight out of high school, right? say the next Cooper Flag, the next LeBron James, let's say he goes to college, and Cooper Flag did go to college. Let's say he's a phenom like LeBron, and Nike want to give him the LeBron deal, right? When LeBron got that deal, nobody could come and say, oh, this is illegitimate. He's not worth this much. No, you're worth what the investor is willing to invest in you. So this whole, the whole NIL thing is set up to take away that right. The whole NIL goal is to say, no, we can say what you worth by this 12-point factor that we using. When all the player gonna have to do is take it to court, and it already been decided in court that no, the NCAA or nobody can cap these player earnings. And if you try to punish them for their earnings, you're going to get in trouble. We all saw that with Tennessee, right? So it's already etched in stone. You can't put a cap on these kids' NIL. You can't. They worth whatever. So they finna try to say, oh, the first kid they say, oh, you ain't worth, just like Pat McAfee said. If somebody offer a kid 1.5 million and you come and say, oh, you only worth 250, 500,000, they going straight to court. And the judge gonna be like, what do you mean? He's worth whatever the investor want to invest in them. So what gonna happen is this is gonna get scrapped. It either gonna get scrapped and we back to square one, or the only thing they're going to be able to do is make sure that all that money is coming from said business and is not coming from the university or a booster of the university. It's going to be clearly shown. As soon as it get took to court, it's going to be clearly shown. You can't tell these players what they worth. I guess they counting on players not fighting it. I guess that's what they counting on. Because as soon as they go to court, the judge is going to tell them, you can't tell a player what he's worth. He's worth whatever somebody want to invest in his services for. And they're going to automatically lose. So that's why I didn't make a video, y'all. Because it means nothing. I'm sorry y'all wasted y'all time. Right? I know I didn't waste y'all time and y'all wanted to hear from me and wanted to know what I think. I'm just playing. But this is why I didn't make a video. Because I read into it and saying this don't mean nothing. All this means is they're going to be going to court and losing, and it's going to come to where the NIL goal just going to be to verify that that company is actually giving you all that money, and it's not, and you not getting that money from somebody that's not the company, like a booster. That's all that's going to happen. That's all. And the revenue sharing part, I mean, that's cool. We already knew that was going to happen. But we all know they slid this end up under the revenue sharing. So the court looking at this for the most part like, okay, y'all finna allow the university to play players. Cool. But they real mission is to cap NIL. They're bullshit. They presented to the court like, oh, we paying players money. This our revenue sharing plan. And this how we want to do it. And the court like, oh, okay, NCAA, y'all catching up with the times, huh? But really, this is a bull to try to cap the NIL. And as soon as the first smart kid that take this to court, they losing, and they gonna have to scrap the whole system. Because once they lose one case, they gonna lose them all. Because it's gonna be simple. Oh, you can't cap these players. You can't tell these players. Once they go to a federal court, and these kids got lawyers standing by them, and once it's presented that this entity is trying to tell these players what's their worth, when we got businesses that's willing to invest more in them than what this said entity says worth, the judge is gonna throw that out. The judge is gonna throw that out. So y'all ain't nothing changing. Just like Pat McAfee said, like, it is gonna come to, you're gonna have all your paperwork ready. You have to type up some great paperwork by a great lawyer. And the only thing they gonna do is try to have to just make sure that the money that this endorser is giving you is actually coming from the endorser and not the school. That's the only thing is this finna come down to, y'all. But the NCAA is always putting themselves in position to lose in court. But they willing to roll the dice for, because They got such a hard on to try to limit what college athletes make. So they willing to try this shit. This is a Hail Mary. Right? This really a Hail Mary. This shit not gonna work. Excuse my language if you got kids with you. This is not going to work. And speaking of work, I gotta go to work. So I'm out of here, y'all. It's Carter Gang TV. That was the 12 factors of how they gonna determine the NIL. But as we see, this shit gonna end up in court. Right? But until then, y'all, I'm gone.